Good morning and welcome to the 1st of April 2019, and I've headed now to what I consider to be a little known gem of the South Wales and the Cardiff area, and I'm just here to the north of Cardiff, virtually as far as the north in Cardiff as you can go, and today we're going to visit Cefn Onn Park. It's actually a public park that belongs to the Cardiff Corporation, and it's famous for its rhododendrons, and as we're heading into April, I'm hoping that the rhododendrons will have got into peak flowering, or not far off it certainly. It may be a week or two away yet, but as I understand it, the relatively mild winter that we've had this year means that the rhododendrons should be flowering early, and they should be particularly good this year. If you're not quite sure how to get here, you'll find the usual things on the internet, but we're just in the Cardiff suburb of Lisvane, and we're actually right tight against the M4 motorway. In fact, the car park for the park is actually the wrong side of the motorway from the park itself, and we have to actually walk under the motorway to get through to the park, and unfortunately there's always going to be a little bit of background noise from the motorway. But I haven't been here for many years, and it's time we took another look at it, and hopefully it will be a nice day and well worth a visit, and some other people will make the effort to come here. Particularly good, as I said, rhododendrons, April, May especially, but it's also quite a nice park. Underneath the motorway bridge here is a mural to put out depicting some of the history of the park, including a picture of Mr. Ernest Prosser, who was the man who was responsible for the laying out of the park and the building of it in the first place. It was the idea of Ernest Prosser to build this park and eventually to build his own house on it. Ernest Prosser was the owner of the Cefn Onn Railway, and the railway line runs just behind us here. I don't know whether you can just see it over there. And it was him who had to build this in the first place. Rhododendrons come into flower through the spring. This is one of the earlier flowering type, obviously. I'm not an expert on rhododendrons. I'm not going to tell you which is which as we go around, but I will take some video of some of the nicer ones. This one is a mixture of pink and white. That one up there is quite nice. Now here's one that's quite spectacular. For some reason or other, this reminds me of a pineapple. Anyone else? Does it remind you of a pineapple? It's definitely that yellowy colour to the flowers. They've carefully run the streams that run naturally down the hillside through the middle of the park as well to make it spectacular. So there's a number of significant dates in the history of the park. 1911 the park was started and built by Ernest Prosser, who was the manager of the Cefn Onn Railway, and it was built originally with the idea of having access for his son, who unfortunately suffered from tuberculosis. And so the idea was that the park was made with easy walkways, and so that a wheelchair could be moved through here if necessary without too much difficulty. And the spectacular grounds were laid out. Unfortunately, in 1922 his son died, and in 1933 Ernest himself died. And from the family who took over his estate in 1944, they decided they couldn't keep it on any longer, and were able to sell it to Cardiff Corporation. Cardiff City Council as it is now, or I believe it's the County of Cardiff now, who made it available to the general public. and it is spectacular, and it's one of Cardiff's hidden gems in many ways, because a lot of people just do not realise that it's here. There's another spectacular rhododendron, early flowering rhododendron behind there, white one. Now this is a part of the area which is affected by phytophthora, so I can't walk any further up here at the moment. It's been closed to the public to prevent the spread of the disease. For those of you who aren't my friends from Wales, you can see that the sign is written in Welsh first and then English. I'll have to look that up, the whole design, exactly what phytophthora is. I should know, I should have done my research before I left the house today. Of course, I'm actually outside the park here, and I'm actually outside the fence. Trying to take some pictures over the top of the fence. There's a public footpath at the side of here, and it does show some of the colours and some of the rhododendrons that are up there. But unfortunately, they're not allowed in there at the moment because of the danger of spreading the disease, which is a real shame. It's quite spectacular though. It's difficult to see from here, but these steps, which were built relatively short time ago, lead down to the railway line, and if you could just see to the right hand side of that fence there, let me see if I can get you in a little closer, just to the side of that fence, where that pipework is the entrance to the railway tunnel, the Cefn Onn railway tunnel. It's about a mile long, it was completed in 1870, and it's still in use for the trains today. Well, this just about says it all. In fact, that notice in there says it all. I don't think you'll be able to read it through the mesh. It's frustrating really, because the park is starting to come into its best, but they're doing a lot of work on this area known as the Dingle. It's got some great rhododendrons and some things to see in there, but no one's allowed in there at the moment. And unfortunately, they started 4 months' work in February this year. So by the time that it's reopened, the rhododendrons will probably have finished. Or certainly at their best. You'd have thought they might have thought about that a little more before they decided when they were going to do this work. But they've got a lottery grant to do a lot of work there. So we'll see how it goes. Now this public footpath runs immediately down the side of the park, and sort of between the park and the railway line, which is just down in the dip below us there. It's still a nice walk on a day like this. It's a little frustrating not being able to get to that side of the fence because of the work going on there, but it's still a nice day and a nice spring morning. It's very keen for walkers who head further up here and further up to the hillside, up towards Cefn Onn Mountain, if you're into that sort of thing. And it's probably worth a visit in its own right. It's just I've been a little bit disappointed today that I haven't been able to get as much access to the park as I would have liked. I can't help thinking that by working between the 2nd of February, as I believe when the work started, for 4 months, around about the time when the rhododendrons are going to be out in April, I can't help thinking that's bad planning on someone's part, although these things are very often determined by when money is available and when contractors are available, I suppose. But I can't help thinking that someone really didn't quite think about that through and think that through. Lovely buds starting to show on the trees here. They're starting to get quite spectacular. If I can get them into focus. Come on, focus. There we go. But at the moment, as you can see, we're not allowed to pass that point. There's some lovely rhododendrons just through there as well. Just see them through there. Perhaps I can get through to them. There you go. Just trying to see whether I can find any frog spawn in the water. Ah, there are some small fishes down there. Can we see those? Just near those sticks there. Can we see those? Let's see if I can get in a bit closer. Come on, little fishies, move. There we go. I think they're your old-fashioned sticklebacks, which would explain why they buy a stick. It is quite a nice, tranquil spot in the middle of the park. Well, that was our day trip to Cefn Onn Park. A bit of a fail. I should have perhaps done a little bit more research before I went to find out that a large part of the park was shut off. And we learned from our mistakes. I think what I will do is I'll probably go back in June when the park reopens to have a good look around there and give you an insight as to what might still be available and what you can still see round and about. So thank you for watching this vlog. Please subscribe. Please give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. We all have to learn from our mistakes. To let me know what you think about it, and watch out for any of that might come along in the future. So until the next time, let's say goodbye, and I hope to bring you something soon.